We have some pretty big news. Two separate pet food recalls have been posted this week by the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, over fears of bacterial contamination that could cause illness in the animals and in some cases potentially death. So it is quite hot and heavy, these things. The first recall involves pet food for dogs and cats. The second recall involves pet food for hedgehogs, so our spiky friends. Here's what you need to know, and this article is by Fast Company. Dog and cat food recall, Viva Raw LLC of Hillsborough, North Carolina, so these applies to the US, is voluntarily recalling various lots of its cat and dog food products due to fears that the products may be contaminated with Listeria monocytogenes. According to the recall notice posted on the FDA website, the recall covers the following products, all which have lot 21244. We have turkey for dogs grounds, turkey for dogs chunked, turkey for cats, pure turkey, and beef and turkey for puppies. The products were distributed in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. The products have no expiration date because it is raw food and you tend to freeze these. What is Listeria monocytogenes? Well, it's a bacteria that can cause a serious infection known as listeriosis in humans. Symptoms of listeriosis in humans include vomiting, fever, diarrhea, among others, according to the FDA. But listeriosis can also result in meningitis and other deadly illnesses. So it isn't a joke, folks. Pregnant women, the young, the old, and frail are at more risk and serious complications. In pets, Listeria can cause a number of troubling symptoms, including diarrhea, anorexia, and fever. The animals could also experience depression, miscarriage, and even death from an infection resulting from Listeria bacteria. So, yeah, what do you have to do if you are one of the people affected? Well, the FDA notice says that you should not feed the products to any pets. It also recommends that you do not touch the products with your bare hands, so always protect your hands with some sort of gloves. Use gloves or paper towels to dispose of the products in a sealed bag, and then sanitize all surfaces that had come into contact with it. And then we have the potential risk of salmonella, which is a bacteria that can cause potential severe infections in humans. The FDA again says that common symptoms include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and bloody diarrhea, abdominal cramping, etc., etc. So, as we always say with any recalls, this is a good thing because whenever we talk about manufacturers recalling their food, they are losing money, they are losing out on money, but they are doing the right thing in recalling their products. Sometimes these things happen and it doesn't really matter whether we are talking about kibble, whether we are talking about raw food or wet food or whatever. It is what it is. The risk of salmonella is always there, not just from Viva Raw, but it is a risk, and as responsible raw feeders, you need to take the right precautions whenever you feed raw. So that's one piece of news. The other piece of news is this DCM lawsuit thing, and this still has legs, folks. Missouri court certifies class action over alleged grain-free dog food and DCM link. And this is quite interesting. So the key allegations and the legal claims. The lawsuit, Mary Harmon et al. Versus Shell and Campeter, alleges that Shell and Campeter Inc., operating as Diamond Pet Foods and Taste of the Wild, falsely marketed the grain-free dog food as uniquely high quality, safe and healthy. Plaintiffs claim this representation violates the Missouri Merchandising Practices Act due to an alleged increased risk of DCM associated with grain-free diets. Diamond Pet Foods denies these allegations and maintains that its product labeling is not misleading. So some similar legal actions that have occurred, and this is to remind yourself what's happened in the past. The lawsuit follows another class action filed earlier this year against Hill's Pet Nutrition, alleging similar claims about grain-free dog foods and DCM. Their FEB lawsuit by Keto Natural Pet Foods seeks $2.6 billion in damages from Hill's, accusing them of manipulating the FDA to investigate grain-free diet. So another very important data point here is the impact on grain-free dog food sales. The FDA's 2019 announcement, which named 16 brands correlated to DCM cases, led to a decline in sales for those brands. However, ongoing scientific reviews have not found a definite connection between grain-free diets and DCM, dilated cardiomyopathy, in dogs, a heart condition. As of December 2022, the FDA maintains there is not enough data to establish a causal link, and some potential ramifications here. Well, we will see where we stand with this whole thing. I just think that in recent years, if you think about it, right, kibble needs to be put together with something, whether that something is wheat gluten or rice or barley or pears, apples or spinach. The meat needs something to stick together, and that something to stick together is a starch, is a carbohydrate. Now we then get into the vast array of carbohydrates that there are in pet food and how they affect our health and our pet's health. If you think about it, high fructose corn syrup and wheat gluten are extremely cheap, extremely prevalent in fast food, and they are extremely cheap and extremely prevalent in pet food, in our food, in fast food, because they're very, very cheap to manufacture and to put together and to concoct different things. Whereas something like fruit or vegetables, sweet potato, for example, those tend to be better for us, and it's a lot it's very, very interesting how a lot of these companies are doing whatever they can, allegedly. Obviously, we always have to say allegedly in these cases, to rubbish each other and to say to you, the consumer, buy grain free, buy raw, buy veterinary prescription diets, buy this, buy that, buy the other. So it's really, really interesting that this is happening. And well, one of the consequences, as we read from the article, is that sales of DCM foods were affected, of grain-free foods rather, were affected by the lawsuit and by all these instances where people were told that grain-free dog foods would cause DCM in their dogs. And we have had people come to us, to our branches here in England, and say, hey, I've read this, I don't want your food because it's grain-free. So it does permeate into the consumer. Now, you cannot tell me that 50% wheat gluten and rice is better than 50% fruit and vegetables. Now, 50% fruit and vegetables, in my opinion, is very, very high for a kibble. It should be maybe 10 to 20% tops. But nevertheless, this is something that has stayed with the public, and people are concerned about grain-free dog food. You know, they really, really are, and there's a lot of confusion as to what you should feed your dog, whether that's grain-free dog food, dog food with grain, whether that's wet food or veterinary prescription diets. In my opinion, you should feed your dog a very, very high meat content food, very, very low carbohydrate diet, and your dog will be thriving, really. Do not add any vegetables to the whole mix, and yeah, keep on keeping on. Basically, those have been the two news of the week. We have some salmonella, potential salmonella cases, and Listeria monocytogenes, and these class action lawsuit over grain-free dog food and the DCM link. So question number one for the week is: my cat refuses any treats. He's super picky. I always read the first three ingredients. They should be meats or fishes or both. And yes, I do agree. You should always read the ingredients for everything you give your cat. My cat doesn't like treats. He doesn't take any treats. He doesn't take to any treats at all. And that is okay by me, because he only eats meat as a true carnivore. And he eats a fresh meat diet. And he is extremely slim and healthy and agile, and he's wonderful, but he doesn't like any treats. Even whenever we source any organ meat for him, any extra organ meat for him, he doesn't like them. He just wants his food. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. They should be meats or fishes or both. Yes, they should. When it comes to cat food, we want to see meat. Basically, we don't want to see any grain, and we don't want to see any stupid carbohydrates in there. No cereals and no wheat and no meat and animal derivatives. Question number 2. I like the video, but find it ironic that you willingly pay insane taxes yet happily put rail on dog food. I don't really see the point, but thank you so much for the question. Well, you want me to not pay taxes? That's illegal, in my opinion, and I think it is illegal. Rail on dog food? Yeah, we do rail on dog food quite a lot on this channel. We want people to have a really good diet, to give their dogs a really, really good diet. And we aren't going to shy away from being loud and from being very, very clear about what we want and what we believe in. And yeah, so do we pay taxes? Yeah, we do pay taxes. We pay quite a lot of taxes actually through the business, and we do rail on dog food. But thank you so much for the question. What is the best low fat food? This is a real specific and generic question at the same time. Anytime someone asks for low fat food, it tends to be because of either pancreatitis, suspected pancreatitis, chronic pancreatitis, or because their dog's poos are yellowy and a bit oily, which hints that the pancreas isn't digesting lipase, the fat in the food, very, very well. But sometimes it isn't the fat content, it's the carbohydrates. It's excess carbohydrates. Excess carbohydrates turn into triglycerides in the liver, into fats, and those fats tend to be the problem, not the fats to start with. So your dog secretes amylase, protease and lipase. Amylase breaks down carbohydrates, protease breaks down protein, lipase breaks down lipids and fats. So that's how you and me break down different macronutrients, and that's how dogs do it as well. Now, pretty much 10 times out of 10, whenever we have a dog with pancreatitis or wanting a low-fat diet, we tend to tell people, look at the overall amount of carbohydrates you feed the dog and don't worry so much about fat content. And let me explain. So fat is essential for your dog, unless you have a very senior dog, a dog with chronic, embedded, entrenched pancreatitis. Low fat should only be something that you do on a temporary basis. This isn't something you do on a regular basis, on an ongoing basis, because you are going to harm your dog in the long term. Short term, you can get away with a low-fat diet. But if you eat pasta 5 times a day, you are going to put weight on, because those excess carbohydrates are going to be converted into fat. And that, in my opinion, is the crux of the issue. So any veterinary prescription diets you give your dog, they will be very, very carb rich. They'll be cereal based, and those are the worst kind for your dog. So low fat, I mean, I don't know enough, obviously, and you can book a consultation, www.thepetquarter.co.uk/consultation, and we can have a look and we can have a chat. But best low fat food, I wouldn't worry too much about fat. I would worry a lot more about carbohydrates, the blood glucose level, if we are talking about diabetes in dogs, diabetes mellitus in dogs. And so that would be my overarching piece of advice, basically. My cat likes dry meow mix, but gets very sick for a week every time he eats it. I give him kit and caboodle and frisky sensations. He likes them and they don't make him sick. I mean, these foods are absolutely dismal. The meow mix and the frisky sensations. Let's have a look. Let's have a look together, shall we? Meow mix, right? Mix. The meow mix. So let's look at the dry cat food from Meow Mix, and then we are going to look at Friskies as well. So the original choice, for example, although all of them are going to be pretty similar, the description, so delicious flavors of chicken, turkey, salmon, and ocean fish. Where are the ingredients? They tend to not. So the first ingredient is whole ground corn, right? So for a carnivore, whole ground corn is a dismal ingredient. The second one is soybean meal. The third one is chicken byproduct meal, corn gluten meal, beef tallow, animal digest, turkey byproduct meal, salmon meal, ocean fish meal, phosphoric acid, and then about 50 different additives. So we have about, so crude protein 30%, crude fat minimum 11%. We are maybe talking about 60% carbohydrates in a cat food for a carnivore. No wonder your cat is sick. Whole ground corn should never be the first ingredient in cat food. This is something we rail against so much, and we tell people that it isn't the right thing for your dog. Now let's look at Friskies, right? Friskies dog food. And Friskies dog food is by Purina. Friskies. So let's dog food Walmart, because you live in the United States of America. So Purina Friskies, this is the wet cat food, but they are all going to be pretty similar. So chicken and salmon dinner in gravy. The ingredients are water, chicken, wheat gluten, meat byproducts. What meat byproducts? We don't know. Liver, turkey, corn starch modified. This is McDonald's for your cat, by the way. Soy flour, salmon, artificial and natural flavors. Those are quite vague in my opinion. And then we have a bunch of additives, which are about a mile long. But cornstarch modified, and where is the other one? And wheat gluten in cat food should never appear anywhere on the label. I don't really care what anyone says. So if your cat is sick from their food, That's probably why, because you are giving your dog McDonald's and something they cannot process. So I would find a better food, a much better food. The cornstarch modified foods need to stop, in my opinion. They are pretty horrible. So yeah, that's probably why. He Kitten Caboodle and Frisky Sensations, he likes them and they don't make him sick. This is all, you're giving your cat KFC, McDonald's, and, and Shake Shack or whatever every day, 2 or 3 times, 2 or 3 times a day. It's a recipe for disaster. Don't feed your cat like this. It's awful, really. I have always wondered, watching TV commercials about vegetables in dog food, when have we ever seen a dog digging up vegetables in a garden? If there's some meat on the ground and a carrot, etc., the dog's gonna eat the meat and sniff the vegetable and walk off. Don't get me started on vegetarian human food that's shaped like sausages or a chicken, lol. Well, thank you so much for the question. I mean, yeah, whenever we talk about dog food, the presence of vegetables has always been in the conversation. And it is my belief that it is because vegetables are very, very cheap. They're very cheap. And once you put them in a dog food, that is going to cheapen the whole manufacturing process. What costs money is meat. If you go to the supermarket, what you want is a good piece of steak or a good piece of chicken or whatever, and that's going to cost money. And then you can fill your basket with all sorts of vegetables, and those are going to be quite cheap. The very big problem, in my opinion, with a lot of subscription services, and here in the UK we have Butternut Box and Pure Pet Food and all these. We have Tugs, we have a bunch, right? And it's the amount of vegetables they put in dog food. So they claim their food is fresh. They claim the food is natural, is wonderful for your dog. It's this, it's that, it's the other. But at the end of the day, it's 40-50% carbohydrates. It's fruit and vegetables. And your dog does not need 40-50% vegetables. And here in the UK, and I'm sure you've got similar foods wherever you are in the world, 40-50% fruits and vegetables for the price they want you to pay is very, very high. Very, very high. So, yeah, I mean, my dog, whenever you give him something that isn't meat, he's not all that interested. He sort of like sniffs it and doesn't really like it, and that's for a reason, right? Although people do swear by their dogs loving carrots and loving asparagus and loving spinach and loving all sorts of things, but whenever you talk to these people, they have sometimes highly dysfunctional dogs, dogs who haven't been trained properly, dogs who don't get fed properly, and people who feed these dogs in a very, very subpar way. So, yes, you are absolutely right. Your dog would never inherently go and attack, a field of corn, or get into a garden and start eating the garden and all the berries in the garden. But if you have a terrier, for example, they might catch mice, and they might catch and kill rabbits or hare or whatever, because that's what they are trained to do. So they aren't really trained or optimized to eating and digesting carbohydrates or vegetables. So that's why you should find a food that is low in vegetables and low in carbohydrates, because as we saw before with the best low fat food, a lot of your problems these days come from the high fructose corn syrups and the wheat glutens and the barleys you give to your dog or cat, and those are what will cause problems. And if you want a dog or a cat without many problems in their life, if you feed them properly, you are going to surely provide something a lot better for your dog or cat and give them a much better life. I mean, my cat and my dog very, very rarely visit the vet. They just don't visit the vet at all. They are really fit, they're really healthy, they eat what they need to eat, everything works like clockwork, and it's wonderful to see. Basically, it's absolutely wonderful to see. Once you know, you don't go back. Once you open your eyes, the whole world becomes your oyster when it comes to your dog or your cat. Problems like dandruff, problems like halitosis, common problems people deal with, your recurring itchiness and yeasty ears and all that sort of stuff becomes irrelevant and secondary because you know what to feed your dog or cat. So yeah, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.